You're listening to episode 134 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Kelli Tennant.
I truly went in with that mindset of how can I disrupt this space while being authentically here for myself and supporting other women in every way.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. So here's a little bit about our guest today, Kelli Tennant. She is the founder and host of Ceremony Wellness, a podcast dedicated to helping women heal deeply, physically, and emotionally. Through her own 13-year chronic health battle, Kelli left behind her high-profile job as a TV host in LA to teach women how to advocate for themselves, be a resource for alternative medicine options, and a guide to work through emotional trauma and understand the mind-body connection. She hosts events and courses where women can gather, feel supported, and learn about alternatives to the traditional path. So here's our guest today, Kelli. Hey everybody, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. I have Kelli Tennant here in the locker room, all right? So I'm excited to have you, Kelli. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. It really does look like a locker room, which is where I'm comfortable. So good job to you.
Yes, a fellow athlete. I love it. So, I know a lot of our audience probably has heard of you, maybe even listened to your show. We have a large female audience that listens to our show as well. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of your backstory, because you weren't always in health and wellness. You were, this is like to me, this is like a 180-degree turn, right? We're going from media to now you're helping people, helping women.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, that's for sure. So I grew up in Southern California in Temecula and played volleyball my whole life, full ride scholarship to USC, and was fortunate enough to play there and co-captain a Final Four team, which was absolutely incredible. And during that time, I always knew I wanted to be in TV, which is why I ended up choosing USC because they had an incredible broadcast program and, all the networking in LA and opportunities for television were there. So spent 4 years there, but unfortunately after 2 years got really sick and was bedridden and had no idea what was going on. And Western medicine not only continued to not know what was happening, but continued to fail me. And I was put on so many drugs and misdiagnosed for 13 years of my life. So from basically 19 years old until I was about 29, I lived with a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and it ended my volleyball career. I had to give up my scholarship. I was bedridden for 6 months, multiple times during those 13 years. And all the testing they did was super basic, and no one ever correlated the fact that I had mono for 8 months my freshman year of college.
Holy cow.
And no one ever tested me for Epstein-Barr. And that was basically the root cause of all of my problems. And they thought that I had cancer. They thought I had a tumor. They thought I had broken my back because I couldn't feel my left leg. It had been completely numb and dead for years. And they had no idea how to test for anything else. And so I just lived with this umbrella term of fibromyalgia because I had pain, fatigue, depression, and there you go. And at 19, to be given a diagnosis like that and say, sorry, you can't play volleyball ever again after having been in the best shape of my life to nothing, was really, really hard. And so I spent those 13 years basically with myself. I had gotten off of all medication after 2 years. When I was 21, I got off everything. And I thought, I'm 21. This is not how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
I'm hallucinating and I'm just numbing. And there was something in me that knew at the time that wasn't right, which thank God, looking back, that I had the wherewithal to make that decision. And then I just started holistically treating myself. And I looked up so many things. I was just a research crazy person trying to figure out how I could help the pain.
Hey, I apologize. We had a little signal break there, but Kelli was talking about getting rid of the pain by trying different eating protocols. So here it is.
Vegetarian, I was paleo, I did keto, I did all these things. And when I finally found the autoimmune protocol and took all of these triggers and inflammatory foods out of my diet, that's when things started to change. And I was like, oh, this whole food as medicine thing is kind of has some traction here. Yeah, I think this might be a real thing and not like hippie woo-woo talk. And, I come from a very conservative Catholic small town family. So this was like way out of reach for me. And I just really started going down that rabbit hole and researching more and more. And I finally found a functional medicine doctor in 2017, Dr. Lekos here in Santa Monica. And he changed my whole life. I went in, we spent 2 hours together, and he was like, you do not have fibromyalgia. You're so young. You really are healthy, but your body is shutting down, and we have to get to the root cause. And no one had ever said root cause. It was such a foreign concept. I didn't know what it meant. And he said, I think you have Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, leaky gut, SIBO, and some other genetic things that are probably a factor here. And I was like, whatever, let's do all the tests. And so we did everything: stool test, breath test, urine. He took all the blood I had in my body, and we figured out what was going on. And he was right. He was spot on everything. And then I had a few other microbiome issues and MTHFR and stuff like that. And when we started treating those things, specifically the gut issues and the SIBO, because that was running my life. I couldn't digest anything. I had holes in my stomach, all that stuff. Nothing can heal. The Epstein-Barr cannot heal until you heal the gut. So that was just such a massive shift in my life. And then I introduced Ayurveda into things and the mind-body connection and really balancing out my body. I had a lot of heat, which meant my immune system was on fire all the time. So of course I'm going to feel bad, and just really kind of chipping away at what was happening internally and healing one thing at a time. And then introducing ozone therapy was huge for the Epstein-Barr. And after that, I started feeling incredible. And so basically for the last year, I've been feeling really, really good when it comes to the chronic illness piece. And it's been super, super important to understand that there is a mind-body connection and there is a root cause thing. And you have to pay attention to all facets. It's not just one-dimensional when it comes to healing.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you went from such like a traditional Western medicine and you just flipped it over like 100%.
Yeah. That's kind of how I live. I'm pretty black or white.
That's important to understand, because most people, once they say, well, once I go down this road of like doing healthy things, do I have to do it the rest of my life? I get it with my patients. I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm very confused. So you're saying you want to take more medicine. You want to feel crappy more of the time. But you know what? I tried this thing. I had like this tea with ginger in it and I started to feel good. Or I got an adjustment. I started to feel good. But do I have to do it all the time?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. But I mean,
know.
you're like living proof that you can go from chronic disease of, 10 years, right? To an active, healthy, contributing person to society. I mean, you're helping people now do this.
Yeah. And I think, you make such an incredible point. I think so often, and this speaks to a lot of things, sometimes we have to hit rock bottom. And I think health-wise, I hit rock bottom so many times. And I was so young being diagnosed that I knew that there had to be something more out there. And it's about advocating for yourself and not just believing everything you're told. We're told from a young age to believe doctors and firefighters and policemen. And how many times are they wrong? And that's not to speak badly about any of those people, but we're all human. No one's perfect and no one is trained perfectly, right? And there's a lot of information out there. And in order to do what's best for you, you have to ask questions, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it makes that person uncomfortable. That's the only way that you can learn and then they can learn.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because everybody's heard of the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Stretching your comfort zone allows for growth. I mean, if you go so far outside of your comfort zone, you can hurt yourself. But if you just start to stretch slowly, you go, oh, wow, this is pretty amazing. This stuff works. This is cool.
Yeah.
And take that step. So you mentioned mindfulness, and mind-body connection. So what is mindfulness to you? And how do you embody it, and how do you share it with the people you work with?
Yeah, I love that you said the word embody, because what I was going to say is it's about being present in your body. And so often when you deal with things like depression or anxiety or chronic illness, even I'm sure I've never had cancer and I don't want to speak for that, but I'm sure even things like cancer and these horrible things that overcome your entire being, it makes you want to escape your body, right? Who wants to live in a sick body? And that's where I was for so much of my life. I was suicidal at age 12. I was depressed on and off for many years. I never felt like I fit in. And then you throw the chronic illness piece on top of it. And I'm like, my body is attacking me. I feel awful all the time. I don't know what's going on and no one has an answer. So in order to embody mindfulness, you have to be in your body. You have to be present. You have to learn to get quiet and listen to what your body is telling you. And I tell this story so often, but I truly believe that I got sick so that I could come back to myself, because I was so focused on what people thought of me, making sure that I was, people pleasing and making sure people liked me and taking care of everyone else. And I just kept falling by the wayside. And it wasn't until I got sick that I had to start focusing on myself, because we really have no option at that point. And so coming back to myself meant getting quiet, asking my body what it needs every day, journaling, meditation, and learning how to say no.
Yeah. So learning
I
how to
always
say
said
no.
yes. Yes, I'll take that job. Yes, I'll go to coffee. Yes, I'll come to your party. Yes, I'll do all these things. And it's like, I don't even want to be there. Why am I saying yes? And it's all about this people pleasing. And we're so scared to hurt someone's feelings. Then we're hurting ourselves over and over again. And so learning to say no and get out of toxic environments, those things are so important. And we can't embody mindfulness until we take all the noise out and we really get clear on what is my voice, what is best for me.
You said something very powerful that I was just at a mastermind in British Columbia a couple of weeks ago, and
of course you were.
Right. we spoke about this word, this really powerful word, no, and focusing on the one thing, that you can really do to help make an impact for yourself. Because if you if you can't own and take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to give? You can't give from an empty bucket. So if you're overwhelmed.
Yeah. So. Yeah. My friend Caleb was over here the other day and we were talking on my show, and he said, I love this idea, the concept of you have a cup and your cup is full, but what if you're allowing people to drink from your cup? That's for you. People only get to drink from your overflowing cup. The overflow is what
Abundance.
gets to, yeah, that's what's getting taken. The second you allow people to start drinking from your cup, you're screwed.
That's a great, it makes sense, and I see that in my own life, at times, but I also see that with so many of my patients that do the same types of thing. They just get so overwhelmed, and the stress, and I know you talk about stress, the stress in people's lives is killing them, and they're saying yes to everything because it's an opportunity. I can grow, I can maybe get better, but they just get so thin that they can't ever heal.
Well, and how are we supposed to make space for the things that are meant for us when we keep saying yes to the things that are not meant for us? We can't. So then your whole being, your energy, your mind, your time, we only have 24 hours in a day. Everything is taken up by stuff that's not for you, but you're saying yes to it because you feel an obligation and like you have to. If you start saying no to stuff, then you're going to attract more things that bring you abundance, bring you joy, relationships that you want, jobs that you've been dreaming of. But there's no space in your life for those dreams if you're constantly filling it up with this crap you don't even want around.
Yeah. So I have to ask you a question. This is important. You have so much knowledge, right? I mean,
thanks.
Media, wellness, these are so different. So what I know you had your experience, which drove you to start researching and learning. Yeah. But are there great books that you've read? Are there online things that you've been like, oh, you have to watch this and learn from this type of thing? What have you really taken that you enjoy that other people can start to maybe go, I want a little bit of what she's learned as well?
Yeah. So I am very spiritual and becoming more and more so every day. And that's where I've really gotten into the mind-body connection, because I'm understanding energy and chakras and like all of, emotional trauma. And I believe in past lives and how that affects us. And the reason I was given permission to get into that space and explore that is because my amazing friend Jordan Younger has a podcast called The Balanced Blonde. And Jordan has been on a chronic health journey for so many years. She's battling severe Lyme disease right now, as well as a ton of co-infections. And she really just dove headfirst into this space. And in her conversations with her healers, and I found my doctor through her, those conversations allowed me to go to that place. And so that's where a lot of the spiritual, call it woo-woo wisdom, comes from for me, is that step into that. Because you're right, it's so counterintuitive to what I was doing in media and talking to baseball players and all of that stuff. And then I think a few books that I love so much, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer is incredible. I have been a control freak for much of my life, and the idea of the word surrender used to make me cringe. And the funny thing is, for 2019, my intention was surrender. I surrender. And every day in my journal, I write, I surrender. Because I really believe now that the more we try and control and the more we try and force things, the more resistance we're going to reach and be coming in contact with. When we surrender and we allow flow in our lives, that is when things can come together. That is when we allow healing. That is when we allow that abundant energy and that space that I was talking about. So I think podcasts were a huge thing for me. And when I was really sick and I was on leave from work for 5 months before I quit, all I did, I couldn't do anything but walk, be at home, listen to podcasts and read. And I just walked every day and I would just listen over and over to different health podcasts, personal development. And really I immersed in that space because there was nothing else I could do. And I think I was just giving this advice yesterday. This girl really feels like she's hit her rock bottom. And I said, guess what you get to do now? You get to immerse yourself in this development space, call it spiritual, personal, whatever it is. And the more you put that kind of information and energy into your mind and your life and your heart, the more you get to grow, the more you start questioning the norm, the more you are able to pursue your dreams and open yourself up to what's possible. Because we have so much context, right? Based on what experiences we have. These are the types that open us up to that. The other book I love is Disruptors by Patty Fletcher. And she is an incredible doctor and I admire her so much. And she wrote this book and specifically for women about breaking glass ceilings and really questioning the norm, but supporting each other in that experience. And it's not about competition. It's not about breaking each other down. It's how can we rise together? And I was never taught that. And I don't think a lot of young women are taught that. And that really changed my life. And when I came out and quit my job and then started the podcast, I truly went in with that mindset of how can I disrupt this space while being authentically here for myself and supporting other women in every way.
Yes. And you work solely with women? I know your website does, but or you
No, well, here's the funny thing. So my following is actually 70% that came from sports. So I reach a lot of men and I do find it very funny because I only address women. I would say our podcast is probably 90% women, but we do have a very loyal male following because chronic illness affects them too. And I think a lot of husbands, brothers, I mean, my brother loves my show and he is not like me in a lot of ways. But fathers, they really see, we talk so much about chronic illness, non-toxic products, how to clean up your environment, how to speak to young women, how to raise strong young women. And that really resonates. I mean, you're a guy, you have women in your life. Yeah. Those lessons are super important for how you step into the world, how you are in relationship with them, and how you raise your children. And I think that's kind of the fun part of what we do is we're sort of reaching a lot of different people.
Yeah. And I want to step back for a second, because you mentioned, you know, when you were working with someone that hit rock bottom, and even yourself, and when you were finding your way climbing out, you started to, you know, consume content, right? Consuming podcasts, books, but there were definitely other action steps you had to take, right? Yeah. So it wasn't just listen and let it marinate.
No.
It was, you know, right now, the beginning of this year, I'm 18 books in.
Wow.
This is like a big year for me, like as far as consuming and learning. And I say that because my father said, hey, listen, you're doing what I did many years ago. He goes, you need to, you know, take stuff from but I'm not reading novels, right? I'm reading personal growth and science and all this stuff. He goes, you need to start to apply that stuff. That's where the transformation comes. So I know you were not just reading or not just listening.
No.
What else were you doing? Because I know you have a journal, right? Don't you have a journal?
Yeah. Yes. So we have a journal on our website, and I created that at the end of 2018 because I had never journaled. And honestly, to be totally frank, I was scared shitless to journal. I was so scared to go there because I knew stuff was going to come up, and I knew that I was going to have to do the work, and I was going to have to face myself. It's one thing to face other people, right? What happens when we face ourselves? That is terrifying. Because we all have a shadow side. We all have this darkness that we judge so harshly. I was telling someone earlier, I am grieving the loss of my old self, and my old self is judging my new self so harshly. And I really feel like I'm in this space of like, am I this old person or this new person? And what does that look like? And the only reason I've been able to get there is because I journal. Every morning, I write down how I'm feeling, what's coming up for me, what's on my heart, why I'm stressed, something that was triggered by my boyfriend, or whatever it is, how my body's feeling, writing down the mind-body connection, and then seeing the patterns that pop up for you every day. That has been profound. And it's such a simple process, but it can be very painful. I have cried more in the last 18 months of my life than probably when I was a baby. And it's being willing to get vulnerable and really look yourself in the mirror and not have judgment and just say, this is going to be hard. And we are repatterning. And I felt like I went through almost a rebirth of like becoming this new person, questioning all the things that I had learned for so long and being okay with that and not judging myself for the days when I'm just in bed crying and crying and I can't even explain why I'm crying because it's just so many emotions.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge part of the work. And I also think that it is, when you step into a situation or a conversation and you want to say something and then in your head, you're like, wait, why did I say that? Or why do I want to say this? Mm-hmm. It's starting to question yourself in those moments. And they're really brief and they can come super quickly. But I think those fleeting moments are actually really profound because that's when you're able to get to the root of why you do certain things. Why am I reacting defensively right now? Or why is this triggering me when that person says this? When you do that kind of work, that's when you can really make huge changes.
That's neat. And so do you also see, coming from an athletic background, when trying to work through, emotions and your old self, do you find that movement activity helps you break through as well?
Yeah, I think movement has played such a huge role in my life. And it's something I definitely don't take for granted because I was so sick and I couldn't work out for so long. When you spend your whole life moving and then all of a sudden you're not allowed to do that for a certain period of time, it can be very painful and it's a loss of identity. And I wrote a book about this called The Transition, and it's Every Athlete's Guide to Life After Sports, because my transition from playing sports into the real world and losing movement in the way that I had been trained since I was 3 years old was so gnarly. Through this, well, I realized that every athlete goes through this at some point. Like you truly lose yourself in that. And so when I was able to start moving again, I felt like myself, and I was like, oh. And it's not about squatting 220 and working out with the USC football team at 6 a.m. and being, super intense and having these giant thunder thighs. Although those were the good days. It's really about just getting out there and moving your body and finding what works for you. And right now I'm very in this place of doing yoga, and then I'll go do Barry's high intensity workout. And then I'll do more of a functional movement workout with my trainer. And even my chiropractor, I was telling you earlier, we really focus on moving the fascia. And I believe that a lot of emotion is stored in your fascia. And so if you can work through that, then you're releasing a lot of trauma. And so movement can be a lot of things. And even when I was super sick, okay to be able to walk, spend that time in nature, spend that time outside. And I think a lot of people look down on themselves if that's all they're doing, but especially on a healing journey, that's like the most nourishing thing you can do for your body. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And nature's a cool thing. And I've had conversations today with people about this. Do you find yourself spending a lot of time in nature as healing for yourself?
So much. And I'm actually leaving with my boyfriend, Connor, for his realness retreat in Costa Rica on Saturday. Oh, cool. It's an ayahuasca retreat. And we're going to be out in Costa Rica for a week, like right on the water. And then I'm going to Peru for a week straight from there. And I have just found that, especially living in LA, we're inundated with buildings and noise and chaos. And being in nature, it really allows to get rid of that noise I was talking about earlier and get quiet. And I think I'm someone that really needs to be grounded because I can be kind of all over the place and stress and have anxiety. And I notice that when I'm in nature, specifically around water or up in the woods, like totally in the middle of nowhere, I feel so at home and so at peace. And not that I want to escape and go be a monk in the mountains, but just infusing a little bit of that into your life more and more, I think that really, really helps. At least for me, it's made a big impact.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I've been doing a lot of research now and learning about spending multiple days in nature, like disconnected,
Yeah.
the powerful impact it has on not only like your neurology, because that controls everything, but now it starts to affect multiple areas of your life. So I think you're on something. You're gonna have an amazing time, I'm sure,
Yeah.
on
Well, and I
this
think
retreat.
even, I don't know how much you talk about plant medicine on the show, but even just connecting with plants
Uh,
and using them to heal your body, that is being in nature to me, and that is being one with nature. And I think that connection is something I never really knew about, and it's pretty new to me still, but I've watched the impact it's made on my life and the way it's really opened my heart
mhm.
and my way of being. And so I think that's really powerful too, if that's something that calls to people.
Yeah. So in the word of transformation right now, and don't you have an event coming up also, like in the
Yes.
future?
Yes, I'm so excited. So October 5th in Los Angeles, we have a full day event with all of my healers, my Ayurvedic doctor from Surya Spa, Dr. Lekos, who I was talking about, who's a
Mhm.
functional doctor, as well as a ton of my friends who just happen to be incredible speakers, life coaches, dating
Cool.
coaches. They work one-on-one mentoring women on manifestation. My trainer is going to be doing a movement portion. One of my healers is doing an entire group healing. And I'm really excited to gather 150 people in a room for an entire day of access to people that they may not necessarily have access to or be able to see regularly.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
yeah, I'm excited. So if anyone wants tickets, you can go to kellitennant.com/live, and it's going to be a really special day.
And also, I know you have a gift for the audience. So can you share that?
I don't remember. What is my
That was
gift?
something with your store,
Oh,
a
my
shopping
shopping
list?
list.
Yes.
Yes. So we created the shopping list. I was telling you earlier, I did the autoimmune protocol and it
Uh-huh.
really made a huge impact on my body. So we created a shopping list that has all of my favorite foods that are autoimmune protocol compliant, as well
Mhm.
as some other things that once you transition into eating more foods and you're able to reintroduce foods, some of my favorites. So that's at kellitennant.com/shopping list.
Awesome. This has
Yes.
been great. Well, I'm very excited for you. You have a lot of really neat things
Thank
going on in your
you.
life, and I would love to talk to you after your journey down south, like down in
Yes.
Costa Rica, and that you're going to come back. I'm going to talk to a different person, I think.
I know. I had my first experience with ayahuasca ceremony in February, and I truly felt like a different person after. So I'm really
Yeah,
curious how this one's going to go.
yeah, yeah. I mean, transformation is something that happens every day, and
It is.
those events are going to be much more powerful, obviously, than every day. So
Yes.
I'm very glad we got to connect, have you on the show. I look forward to future conversations, and I cannot wait to see your evolution. I can't wait to hear about your event when it happens, and future connections. So I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
being here.
And thank you, sir, so much for all the great work you do. It's super important to have these conversations, and I'm just really appreciative.
Thank you.
I truly hope you loved that episode with Miss Kelli Tennant. What a great, great woman. And she's on a mission. You know, when you go through some hard times health-wise like she has, you really get the drive and the desire to get people better because you were able to go through that journey yourself and come out the other end a better, happier, healthy, more resilient human being. So if you do want to get her freebie, scroll down the show notes. We will have that shopping list available for you. If you are a woman and do want to go to her live event, we will also have the link available in the show notes for you. And make sure you go ahead and head over to lifestylelocker.com/Kelli Tennant. And you can get all of the details there as well. So wherever you are and whenever you are listening to this, have a great day, evening, and night. We'll see you soon, Lifestyle Locker Nation. Bye-bye.